Hey everyone, it's me once more, dragging my suitcase through Tuscany again, and this evening we landed in Prato. Tuscany travel guide stuff aside, let me hit you with some numbers so you know why this city deserves more of your attention. Prato has almost 200,000 people in the city proper as of 2025. It is the second largest city in Tuscany, right after Florence. So when people say, Prato is small, well, small is relative. It's big enough to feel alive, but still intimate. Now the historic center, the part inside the old medieval walls, is much smaller and walkable. And this is where we are heading. We rolled in around 5 p.m., after a full day exploring Pistoia. The golden hour was just getting ready to show off. It was late May, the sunset would stretch to near 9 p.m. First thing on my list, Biscotti. Why? Because Biscotti di Prato are famous, for good reason. Then alleys, then churches, then castles, and we have a little surprise for you today. Let's dive in. Here's the thing. Prato isn't just Florence's neighbor. It stands on its own. Let me break it down for you. Prato lies in north-central Tuscany, roughly 13 kilometers northwest of Florence. It's got historic medieval walls that once enclosed what was the Old Town, the part with the churches and palaces. That Old Town is walkable. If you got 2 to 3 hours like us, you can cover many major landmarks in the center. 200,000 people in the municipality, but the Old Town is a fraction of that. Still, the density is high in the center, with tight streets, buildings close, lots of life on the street. Prato has one of the largest Chinese immigrant populations in Italy, which you'll feel in shops, fabric stores, food, people. Here's the moment we've been waiting for. We've finally found one of the Biscotti shops in Prato's historic center. It's not the famous Biscottificio Antonio Mattei, which already closed for the day. But still absolutely magic in its own way. They specialize in the typical flavors of Prato. The biscotti were crunchy, well selected and packaged nicely. Next, we headed toward Piazza San Francesco. Here's when the energy shifted. Suddenly more people, more sound, more texture. It was properly crowded there. Like, people everywhere, full cafes, scooters parked like they own the place, and that lovely low hum of a town busy doing its evening thing. The sun had already started that gold filter business it does in late May. Have you ever been somewhere and felt both invisible and hypervisible at the same time? We arrived at Piazza San Francesco, and the Church of San Francesco faces the piazza with an old, serious face. Gothic lines, rough stone, doors that look like they've swallowed secrets. There was a mass happening, so we had to be respectful and could not film the inside. In the center of the square, there's an obelisk dedicated to Giuseppe Garibaldi, from 1889. It stands upright, proud. The San Francesco is one of the earliest churches dedicated to Saint Francis outside of Assisi itself. We slipped behind the church and the alley opened onto something that felt older and stronger. The Castello dell'Imperatore looming like a medieval bouncer. The castle's exterior is heavy and blunt and exactly how you imagine a building that's been put there to say, this is not playtime. Thick walls, square towers, merlons on top, looking very fortressy. This castle is a signature of Prato. It sits roughly 40 meters per side in its square plan, Inside, there was a whole scene going on. Not just tourists taking photos but a sports competition. Have you ever watched fit couples do rope jumps in front of a 13th century castle? Me neither, until today. It was part local pride, part spectacle, and part, wow, those people are unreal. We stood and admired them for ages. There were kettlebells thumping, ropes slapping, lunges, couples shouting encouragement like motivational poets. It was wildly out of place and I loved it. We stepped away from the castle buzz, towards Santa Maria delle Carceri. The church has this Renaissance confidence. Clean, balanced, like the architect put everything in a geometric spreadsheet and said, perfect. There was a mass here, so once more, we were on quiet mode. Outside, looking at the geometry and letting it do what architecture does, make you feel small and centered. We left the castle behind and made our way through winding alleys until suddenly there it was. The Duomo. St. Stephen's Cathedral. It's like Prato's heart, both loud and quiet at the same time. So here's what I gathered, this church isn't just old. It's ancient and constantly evolving. It started as a basic parish church, back in the 6th century. Over the centuries it was rebuilt, expanded, renovated. Between the 12th and 14th centuries it took on its Romanesque Gothic shape. We stepped inside and my breath got caught. It's dimmer in there, but richly so. Light filtered through stained glass, flickering on stone. You see frescoes by Filippo Lippi in the main chapel. He painted stories of St. Stephen on the right wall and stories of St. John the Baptist on the left. The air smelled of incense, old wood, polished marble, and history. Back outside into the square, there was that dance group. 7 girls, wearing long red dresses, were performing. Look at the church facade. Those alternating white and green stripes catch light differently as the sun moves. In the golden hour, the square seems to glow, slightly changing tone. Alright, let's talk logistics. Because some of you are already Googling, how do I get to Prato from Florence, and I've got you covered. Prato is just 20 kilometers northwest of Florence, so it's super easy to reach. There are buses from Florence, but honestly, the train is faster, comfier, and drops you right in the center. You can catch a regional train from Firenze Santa Maria Novella station. It takes 25 minutes to reach Porta al Seraglio station. In fact, I'll walk you to the train station in just a bit, but first, I have a small surprise for you. 7 girls, long red dresses, extra long sleeves tipped in white, hair piled up high. They moved in unison, graceful gestures, arms sweeping, fabric flowing like slow flame in the breeze. Have you ever seen something where you feel like time paused, but you also want to freeze a million frames? Standing here, you start to wonder. How did this town even come to be? Why does it feel so different from Florence, even though it's just 20 minutes away. Well, let's rewind a bit. Pratoa's story goes way back. We're talking Etruscan and Roman times. This area was once a cluster of small villages, the biggest one called Borgo al Cornio. Around the 10th century, those villages started to join together, thanks to trade routes and fertile plains. This spot became a crossroads for merchants heading between Florence, Pistoia, and Lucca. Then came the Middle Ages, and that's when Prato started looking like the town we're walking through today. Walls went up, churches were built, and wool became the town's golden ticket. By the 12th and 13th centuries, Prato was thriving as a textile center. They were exporting wool all over Europe. If you look closely, the historic center is roughly 1 square kilometer. And we are now at the train station. Prato today is famous not just for its medieval past but also for having one of the largest Chinese communities in Italy. Estimates say there are as many as 30,000 Chinese residents. They started coming here in the 1990s, drawn by Pratoa's long textile tradition. And yes, you'll notice it. Chinese restaurants, supermarkets, shops with bilingual signs. It's a fascinating mix. Where else in Tuscany can you have an espresso in the morning and legit handmade dumplings for dinner? Here's what today taught me, as we make our way back to Piazza Mercatale and back to our car. We came here thinking we'd grab a bag of Biscotti and head back, but instead we found a city full of stories. You've got medieval walls, castles, a food scene that's way more than biscotti, and this incredible mix of Italian tradition and global energy. So, if you're in Florence and thinking, should I take a little side trip? My answer is 100% yes. Come hungry, come curious, and leave room in your bag for at least a pack of biscotti. If you enjoyed this little evening walk with us, give this video a thumbs up. It really helps more travelers discover Prato. And tell me in the comments, which part would you explore first? The castle, the Duomo, or just a bench with a gelato watching the world go by? And of course, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss where we're going next. Because next week we're taking you to Siena. So see you next week, and until then, keep exploring and discovering.